Shane Osborn coming up. And Shane, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Steve, I'm doing great.
Good to see you. And of course, former treasurer for the state of Nebraska, GOP candidate for the U.S. Senate seat this November in the state of Nebraska, U.S. naval aviator and the pilot of that EP-3 recon plane that was captured by the Chinese in 2001. That, of course, was an international incident. And Shane, let me get this out of the way. You received several medals for that. You went back then after that to Afghanistan and received another medal for that. Your valor in your service to our country. Yet there are those coming out now in an effort to, I don't know what, slander you, try to get you down a notch in the race for the Senate. I can't imagine why anybody would come out and say this. And all these years later, 13 years later, they're saying, well, you know, that plane that got in trouble with China, that China brought down, he should have dumped it in the ocean. I mean, you know, people have been defending you. Your local paper defended you. Jennifer Rubin defended you at Washington Post today. What's going on here?
You know, this is politics. Unfortunately, in today's world, I thought we were past the time and age where you tried to attack somebody for their military service. And I think Nebraskans are past that. But I guess one of my opponents isn't. And so, you know, what we have is the entire chain of command supporting us, all the way up to the Pacific Fleet Commander, Admiral Tom Fargo, the former Pacific Commander and Ambassador to China during that time, Admiral Joseph Preer, who wrote a nice editorial in the Omaha World Herald this week that said we did exactly the right thing. I'm proud of what my crew did. You know, we followed directives and we saved lives.
Absolutely. And for your efforts, you were awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for Courage and Airmanship, the Meritorious Service Medal for Leadership for that specific incident. And then later on, after Afghanistan, you earned the Air Medal. So, I mean, to try to impugn your military integrity is just, it reeks of desperation. So let's move on.
Okay.
And let's talk about, let's if we can for a second here, this search for the plane. Do you think they're ever going to find any part of this plane?
You know, I hope they do, especially for the family's sake. But at the same time, it shows you how big that ocean is. And when you've, you know, flown patrols over it at night and covered the Earth, you realize how big this Earth really is. You know, sometimes we lose track of that because of technology and the connectivity. But it's unfortunate that you can't find them. But, you know, it's a huge, huge, huge ocean.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you feel pretty confident one way or another that it's crashed, it's in the water, and as opposed to the somewhere landed?
I do by now, because with that big of those amount of people, I would think any group that did something that way would be, you know, publicizing it in some way, shape, or form. But we'll wait and see till they find it. Hopefully, it will at least find some confirmation of it one way or the other.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Washington. You know, the president's approval ratings are at their lowest levels ever in various polls, and it's all according to those respective polls, despite, you know, this populist push for equal pay and inequality and all this kind of stuff. And the health care, there was a poll out today showing that only an AP poll, no right-wing poll there, that only 28% of the public favor Obamacare. You know, and yet the Democrats, some of them, although some in the Senate are now saying, oh, we want changes, but the leadership still maintains they're proud of what they did. And Udall said he'd do it again. And Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid said they're going to run on this thing.
Well, absolutely. They simply think they know what's best for us, that American people aren't smart enough to make their own decisions when it comes to their health care, when it comes to their lives, a regulatory environment, how they should save their money. This is the difference between the Republican and the Democratic Party. We believe in self-reliance, and we don't want the government in our lives. And this is a great example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What else do you see as, I mean, what else do you see as some of the major issues? You know, obviously, let's talk a little bit about Putin, you know, and what's going on there. We've had the President of the United States stand up and basically say, hey, what's done is done. We can't undo it. We're not going to try to undo it militarily. And he's put in very weak sanctions. And many have questioned the will of NATO, militarily speaking.
Well, you look at this President Obama, and he is the worst at foreign policy since Jimmy Carter, and it's setting us back decades. It's going to be a long time and cost a lot of lives to get out of this. We've gone away from the peace through strength Reagan days to this weakness now, and it shows in Syria with the red line being crossed and us doing nothing. And Putin owns President Obama. He steps in there, and now they're not even letting our inspectors in for those weapons of mass destruction. Iran, same deal. This agreement is horrible. I wrote an op-ed about it. It doesn't do anything to slow down their uranium enrichment. It's got the Israelis and the Saudis working together to try and come up with a solution because our president won't stand up for our allies or us. And now you've got Putin, a KGB colonel, an assassin who wants to have the Soviet Union built back again, and we can't do anything about it because our forces are decimated and we've got a president without a backbone. Why aren't we kicking them out of the G8? Why aren't we putting real sanctions on them? Military option is not a good one now. So what we should be doing is exporting liquefied natural gas over to Europe so they don't have a gun to their head with this pipeline and Putin's ability to shut it off. This is a problem. We're at the lowest level in our Congress's Senate today, and it shows.
Well, let me ask you. Let me digress a little bit to another state, and that would be Arkansas, where Senator Pryor made some remarks about Congressman Cotton, himself a veteran, and Pryor doubled down on these remarks rather than take them back when he had a chance to. He said that Cotton appears to him, Cotton has a sense of entitlement because of his military service, that he deserves to be in the Senate, and it doesn't work that way, and military service is not a requirement or a prerequisite for serving in the Senate. And again, you know, those seem very harsh words, and he was given the opportunity to take them back, and he wouldn't. How much is that going to hurt him, do you believe?
Well, it should hurt him. The Americans know, the average everyday voter knows how important it is to stay safe and the importance of the federal government. I mean, we all came together as the United States to provide for a common defense. And when you look at it, when the Congress operated in a much better way, there were a lot more veterans there. Should everybody be a veteran and have to have served in Congress? Absolutely not, but it's completely out of balance. We don't have very much post 9/11 representation. I think Congressman Cotton's going to make a great senator, and I need to get through this primary after May 13th, and I'm going to go help down there in Arkansas.
Talk about the race in Nebraska and the reception you've been getting and how things are going.
It's a grassroots state. There'll only be about 220,000 voters in this primary, and we're all Republican, state and federal, here in Nebraska. And so we've had a ground game. We put on over 43,000 miles. We visited all 93 counties. We've got the sheriffs backing us, the veterans groups that in the state that are backing us. We've got former Congressman Bill Barrett backing us, the conservative state senators backing us. It is a great grassroots effort, but we're also raising the money too. So it's coming around. And I run a very lean operation, just like I did as state treasurer. I keep things tight, and so you have that money at the end to spend when you need to.
All right. Well, Shane, I want to wish you the best of luck. You're always welcome here, certainly, and we will check in with you again. And I'm glad we addressed everything. And best of luck. If people want to find out more about your campaign or help in that effort, where could they go?
ShaneOsborn.com. I would love to have their help, our Facebook or Twitter as well. And we'll keep fighting. May 13th, 46 days away, and we're going to work hard and win this thing.
I'm sure you will. Shane, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shane Osborn, ladies and gentlemen, and just proud to know him, and he will make a great United States Senator from the great state of Nebraska. And I got to tell you, you know, these this isn't somebody coming forward or a group coming forward as they did in the 2004 election, the Swift boat veterans, several of whom actually served with John Kerry, and were in agreement on John Kerry's actions and whether he embellished stories, his leadership, etc. These are people coming out of the woodwork.